Savvy Nation Sports Talk. We're up and rolling on a Friday. Glad to have you with us here today. Vince D'Addario, Jesse Stiers, Sean Stiers. We are all here. Did your screen get smaller? Like right when the show started?
I don't think so.
Like where it shows the three of us there?
I don't think so.
Mine shrunk. I have no idea. Are you still there?
Yes.
Okay, there it is.
Where'd you go?
Mine did some weird stuff. Can you still see me? Can you hear me? Okay. The size of the viewer changed on my end, and so I hit a button, and then we disappeared, and then I hit another button, and we're back. So,
usually I'm the one with the technical difficulties, so you're going to have to figure this out, Sean.
I know. Exactly. Well, glad to have you with us. Vince is actually out and about in the press box at Mishawaka High School watching a track meet. Are you like on official school duty today, or are you just there?
This would be a professional courtesy of Matt Rendell, our buddy at Mishawaka, so that I can be dad and still do the show and watch the track meet. So
very nice.
Anytime there's an away event that my kids are involved with, I'm always on official duty so that I get in for free. Don't spread that around.
I don't know how this is going to work here we go. This is how it's going to work.
Of course it's going to work. We're good.
It's we in, we out day. We were going to do we in, we out yesterday. And of course the Steve Angeli news broke. So
you ruined the show.
We weren't able to do we in, we out. But we've got plenty of quarterback talk that's going to come over the course of this show between we in, we out and rapid fire. We've got Grumpy Jesse, who just watched his Cubs implode in the late innings. So
it's April, man.
Hopefully he makes it through here.
It's the third time they've done this in a span of 20 games.
If it ends up being an L, it's just one. They all count the same.
It is going to be an L.
Well, they're all the same. They all count the same. 2-1, 15-7, or whatever. They all count the same. It's all good. Deep breaths.
By the way, I wore my Festivus T-shirt just in case I want to air some grievances today. So,
are you predicting something?
Well, I don't know if you saw this, Vince, but people were, mad at us because they said we were trashing Steve Angeli yesterday. Yeah. Did you hear about this? Did you see this?
No, but I heard about it from somebody specifically.
Okay. So I don't do this often, but I went back and I listened to the show. I didn't hear us trashing him. I just heard us talking about his qualifications for the job.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what we do. We've got to compare his play to the play of the other quarterbacks.
And right? I feel like we went out of our way to say he did a lot of good things at Notre Dame. It's just that he's not going to be the starter at Notre Dame, and that's the right decision. Like, I don't know that way. That's fine. If people don't be upset,
I don't understand why people are getting their feelings hurt over a backup quarterback who never started a game, a meaningful game.
Yeah, like no one was this bent out of shape about Drew Pine.
People said worse things about Riley Leonard, and he took him to a national championship.
Yeah. No one was this worked up about Tosh Baker not getting to play last year.
He did great. He's awesome.
But I mean, my comparison is the guy who's put in his time too. Drew Pine loved Notre Dame too. This isn't the first guy who's loved Notre Dame who's had to make a career decision.
Right. He's a Notre Dame man. He will go down in history as the reason they won the Penn State game. So there you go. That's what everybody wants to hear. Then that is what they will hear. That's fine.
I mean, honestly, that's probably why people were mad because, people, we'll just.
It's all good. Hang on. Update.
Oh, gosh.
Carson, Barry Bonds, Kelly with another home run, 11-10. Cubs are down 1, baby.
See, I told you to relax. Just it's okay.
All right.
Is it bottom 9 right now?
Nobody came here for the Cubs. Nobody came here for the Cubs.
Bottom 8. They still got a whole inning.
There you go.
Okay. Thanks, Darren. All right. So
that's tough.
It's we in, we out time. This first one isn't really we in, we out. But Burgess 23, is it Bergier 23? It was supposed to hurt.
Didn't hurt
supposed to
me.
a little bit.
Didn't hurt me.
Shot across the bow. So again, this is not we in, we out, but toughest game on the schedule this year. Any NIU/Marshall opponents, USC, Arkansas, and Boise. For me, he says teams should be more comfortable in the spotlight. So I guess the question is just what's the potential trip up game for Notre Dame on the schedule this season?
I mean, I hate, like, nobody would have predicted that Notre Dame was going to lose to NIU. Okay, so like to say that they're asking us to predict that type of a loss, I think is unfair because there's no way that you can predict that happening, right? I mean, Boise State likes to jump on people. I get that. Arkansas.
But Boise State just went to the playoff too. So
this is true, and they also lost the best player in college football. That's gonna make a difference. That's all I'll say. I'm not accepting the Boise State hype. I'll just say that. So if you want me to pick a game where they have a chance at, tripping up, I would say on the road against Arkansas. That would be mine.
I'm glad that everyone knows exactly when Jesse is getting married, by the way. Sly Fox, Boise State, because Jesse's getting married that day.
Yikes.
I would say Arkansas or on the road against Syracuse.
I'm going to just say Purdue, like if we're talking about what we think of the team coming into the season based on maybe NIU had a little bit more stature, because they were a good MAC team from a year before, but I'll just say Purdue if I'm going to draw, because like there are no MAC teams on the schedule this year. I think that, like if we rank the schedule, Purdue or Stanford would be, those two teams would be 11 and 12 in terms of what we think of the teams coming in. So home game like NIU was last year, Purdue is a home game this year. So I'll say it's Purdue.
So you're picking the worst team, the worst home game that they've got, basically?
Well, I mean,
I'm asking, like, that's the thought process.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that's
exactly.
Fair. That's fair because NIU was the worst, arguably the worst home game that they had. So I
should have been. Yeah, because Miami, Ohio was actually the reigning MAC champs from, a year before, and they took care of Miami, Ohio. They didn't take care of NIU. All right. Let me see. I've got to get this arranged here so my screen is multitasked. ND for Life has 3 different ones. We in, we out. The current Notre Dame spring football game format. You guys in or out on that?
Go ahead,
I'd have to be out on it. I like to see a bit more of a scrimmage, like having the ability to go full team. And obviously, I know things are going to be changing with the college football playoff and how far Notre Dame continues to go year after year. But I feel like it really stunk in terms of, just overall excitement outside of watching the quarterbacks play. So I can't say I love it.
I do. I loved it because you actually had good players playing against good players, and that doesn't happen when you do a draft. So as much as I enjoyed like the actual draft process, I enjoyed the game more because you, again, 1s-on-1s, 2s v2s, like that made a difference. You wouldn't have seen the kind of play that we saw if it was a mixed bag of guys. So I'm all in on it. I liked it a lot. The only thing I would change is I just wouldn't keep score because that was a waste of time.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Vince and not Darren on this one. I really like.
I can leave the show if we want.
Here we go. I like the format that they had. I agree with what Vince is saying. I like the 1s versus 1s, the 2 versus 2, because just like Vince said, the regular format that they've been using, the coolest part about it is the draft, but that gives you split squads, and you've got like a first string tackle and a third string guard all playing on the same team and that kind of stuff. So I really like the good versus good nature of it. I like it quite a bit. Are the Cubs leading yet, Jess?
I'm not saying much the rest of the time.
Oh, ease up. In or out, having 2 different transfer portal periods. Vince, lead us off.
Yeah, I'll start this one. I'm in on it because you've got 2 different situations, right? There's guys that are going to leave after the actual season is over. And I know that runs into, the playoff teams and all of that, but you're talking about 12 teams versus the rest of college football. So it works better for those teams. I like the early portal window, the winter portal window, because that allows guys to leave and then come in for spring at their new school. I also like the spring portal window, though, because you're going to see some battles, aka the quarterback battle at Notre Dame, where a guy's going to realize that's probably not going to happen for me, and they have an opportunity to jump in the portal as well. So if you're going to have portal windows, you could just get rid of the windows completely and just say, hey, from the end of the football season until the beginning of the next one, you can jump in the portal whenever
you want. Just leave it open.
You know what I mean? Which I actually would be okay with. But if you're going to have windows, I like one in the winter and I like one post-spring practice. Maybe make it a little bit later because a lot of spring practices had to be moved up, a.k.a. Notre Dame moving their game to the 12th when it's usually at the end of the month. That definitely catered towards the Southern teams that do it a lot earlier. I like it. I like having two windows if you're going to have windows at all.
I'll be nice again. Kyle Tucker homeward, Cubs up by 1. I'll forgive all these rude comments that have been flying around.
So the 10-run inning did not bite him. So
what inning are we in? What inning are we in?
Bottom 8.
Okay.
Anyways, our Lord and Savior Kyle Tucker saved us. Moving on. I don't mind the two windows. I my biggest thing is you need to have there should be a rule on how long you stay or how many times you can transfer in a calendar year is more of my issue. I don't think you should be able to hop in and out of the portal twice, basically. If you get in the first portal, you should have to basically, you can't go into the portal until a year lapses type situation. If you get the spring portal, I don't think you should be able to get into the winter portal as well after the season is over. I think one portal entry per year would be kind of my rule to kind of fix this situation a little bit.
That makes sense. I don't mind that at all. I think you have to have two portal windows just because of, for the guys who want to go in the portal right after the season and then get out and get to a new school. So they go through spring practice with the new school, especially, probably more important for quarterbacks, and this is the second time in the last 3 years Notre Dame has actually had a quarterback leave at the end of spring, but you have to have it for the end of spring as well, because then the roster is thinner in the spring. Guys get, and it's if you're not able to stand out in the spring, then that really lets you know where you are. And so you've got to have that spring window as well. But I like what Jesse said about one or the other. You've either got to, if you go in the spring, you can't go in December again. You got to at least wait a full calendar year before you go back in. But to Vince's point, it's probably a good idea. Just leave the thing open the whole time. What difference does it make when you go in? It's you go in.
Well, and I don't think you can compare it to the National Football League and free agency, because the calendar is different, right? Mm-hmm. You've got very distinct season differences, but you know what I mean?
Still school involved,
right? Well, yeah,
you still have to enroll in school.
That's a great point. I didn't think about that. Yes, school is still a thing. They are still student athletes, even though it's athlete student these days, and it's whatever. So that's a really good point. I was just going to say, from the difference between the end of the regular season and spring ball is the change of a calendar year almost, right? Because in the spring now, you're preparing for the following year. It's like OTAs for the NFL, but OTAs take place in June, May, June in the NFL. You don't really have those in college sports. You know what I mean? Because it's a summer break. So you have to have two windows because of the way the calendar falls. And obviously, more importantly, the way the school calendar falls. That's a really good point.
John says the transfer portal can't be open during the season. And we didn't mean during the season. We meant you open it in that December window, and
right?
It just stays open
until
the end of
August
April
1st or
whenever.
I'd leave it open in the summer. Screw it. I don't care. Leave it open all summer. Whatever. Let's roll.
Well, I mean, you can still go, just like now, as long as you're in the portal by the time it closes, you're in. And even if you don't find a new team in May or June, you could still theoretically find a new team by July, as long as you keep your name in the portal, so it's you don't necessarily have to have it open that whole time, because
That's
once
true.
you're in, you're in.
And of course, and I agree with Jesse. You don't want kids jumping in and out, in and out. Like you get one move, every like calendar year, and then that's it. Or I wouldn't even say calendar year, because you could have somebody jump in December and then move again in January. But like one round, like you get one move and then that's it, right? And I would limit the total number of moves too. I mean, you've got, and I'm not. This is just the example that came to mind, right? You've got the women's basketball team that just got another recruit come in from the transfer portal, and this is their third school. You know what I mean? Like Haley Van Lith, 3 schools. It's like that gets to be too much, in my opinion. Like they should limit the amount of times that you can move, but that's a bigger question arc that we can cover some other time.
Johnny, going back to Purdue, he wants to know if Pete Bavacco is going to let that big dumb drum into the stadium. Remember, that was a thing the last time Purdue was
so
here.
funny.
Drum couldn't get in the stadium because of the tunnel. I wonder what that's going to... I mean, the rule is the rule, right? The visitors come through the visiting tunnel. There's a tunnel for the home team. There's a tunnel for the visiting
That's
team.
right. That was their excuse, wasn't it? Like they couldn't come down the main tunnel.
Drum wouldn't fit through the visiting tunnel.
Listen, I'm as petty as the next guy, and I love the pettiness of Notre Dame on the big dumb drum. But this is really, really petty. But I'm here for it. So because I like to see Purdue fans upset, so
Me too.
I'm here for it. I'm okay. This is in line with my pettiness.
In or out, the safety position will have more interceptions than the corners.
I'll go in on this, especially if they're going to play a lot of man-to-man again this season. I think a lot of the safeties safeties. A lot of the interceptions came from the safeties the last couple of years. Really, a lot of the interceptions we saw from the DBs were Benjamin Morrison, and then when he got hurt, I feel like that number took a nosedive. But I like the way Schuler plays. I think Tay Johnson is going to get his opportunity, and then you're going to have Stroman back there as well with some experience. So I'll roll the dice on the safeties.
I'll be different. I'll go the other direction. I think it's going to be the corners. I think they're going to have more, because I'm going to also count the nickelback as a corner because I can. And so now I've got more guys attempting to pick off passes. So I like the experience of Gray and Moore coming back. Devontae Smith. I like Carson Hobbs. I think he's going to end up with a pick or two this year, just because. He's going to trash talk enough balls into his own hands. So I like the corners, and I will take the corners in this one.
I'm going to go in on the safeties. Watson, Schuler combined for 9 of the 19 interceptions that the team had last year. Obviously, you lose Watts, but Schuler's play is rising, and as we've talked about, there's so much, depth of talent in that room that, Stroman is a veteran as well, assuming Stroman ends up kind of getting, whatever, first team reps, assuming he ends up becoming the guy, but then you still have those, other young guys with a lot of talent out there. So I'll say I'll agree. I'll go in on the safeties having the more interceptions.
Drake Bowen's nabbing himself an interception this season.
Yeah, but he's not a
linebacker.
safety.
I'm just saying.
I'm throwing it out there. No, I didn't know. I didn't
realize we were throwing out random facts. Okay, I got that. Let's go. Random predictions.
So this one is specifically for Vince from Domer Grizz. In a scenario where Vince's son wins the starting kicker job at Hillsdale this year, makes 100% of his field goals and extra points, earning him a preferred walk-on transfer from Notre Dame and a full scholarship offer from Michigan, Vince would rather he go to the Skunk Bears for free rather than pay to go to Notre Dame. In or out on that?
Wow, there's a lot of scenarios. There's a lot of pieces to that. Number one, he would stay at Hillsdale to get his degree, because a Hillsdale degree is better than a Michigan degree. So
shots fired there.
100%. Look it up. So I will say that he will stay until he's a graduate.
Vince is drinking the Hillsdale Kool-Aid. All right, I don't mind that. Okay.
So he's going to stay till he gets his degree. That's number one. And then number two, honestly, it's up to him, because he's paying for school. So I can give advice. I can give sage wisdom. But that's up to him, man. Honestly, he probably would pick Notre Dame because in this scenario, he's going to law school, and Notre Dame law school, I believe, is a cut above Michigan's if they have one. So he'd probably pick Notre Dame. There you go.
Do you have any input, Jess, on what you would do if you were in that situation?
I'd go to Notre Dame.
Take the debt.
Free is better than not free.
You're not wrong.
I would go free.
You're not wrong about that. It would be a serious discussion. I'm not going to lie to you. It would be a serious discussion. I don't know. And this is an honest question, and I don't want to look it up. Does Michigan have a law school? That's a legitimate question. I don't know. And then where do they rank in terms of like, Notre Dame law school, Michigan law school? I don't know. So that would be part of the discussion.
Malpine Shillelagh has a few. Over-under of Jaden Greathouse taser moves this season. In or out on over 5.5 taser moves. What is the definition of a taser move?
Like where a guy falls down like he did it against Penn State? Is that what we're talking about?
Scott L. Esquire, the Esquire means lawyer, by the way, says yes. Michigan does have a law school.
He says it's better than Notre Dame law. So, yeah. Okay, that's part of the conversation then. You know what I mean? Like he's got to set himself up for, the future.
So what is the taser move? Is this like ankle breaker like he did to the Penn State guys?
Yeah,
like, is that what this is?
That's okay. I think that's what we go with. 5.5's a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to go under. Like I could see him 3 or 4, but 6+, because if we're over 5.5, that's a lot of ankle breaking. So I'll be in the 3-4 range for Jaden Greathouse.
I'll go under. Just not that big of a playmaker, in my opinion.
Wow. He went under and a shot fired. Okay. I will say under as well, even though he got 2 on the same play, against Penn State. I still think it's going to be under. Yeah, that's 5.5 just seems like a lot to me, even though you get a lot of opportunities in one game. I feel like that's a lot. So I'm going to go with under as well, to the dismay of our buddy Salty.
Jesse just went right at Salty.
He went right at Salty. He went right at Greathouse. I think he went right at Greathouse's mom. Like, good Lord.
Assault.
She's not a playmaker.
Sidebar. Did you guys see that? Oh, no one will probably care, and I'll get made fun of, but CeeDee Lamb's celebration got tagged with a 15-yard penalty now this season by the NFL.
How many opportunities did he have to make a celebration last year?
He does it every time he picks up a first down and a touchdown.
Which is what? What's the celebration? Do it.
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
It's really simple. All it is just like
that's that. A penalty now?
And he was the only guy that did it, and they made it a 15-yard penalty this season.
Never ceases to amaze me. Okay, next one. If you take 2 of the Notre Dame quarterbacks in the current competition and drop them into 2 teams of your choice, like Texas and Ohio State, for instance, hypothetically, all 3 Notre Dame quarterbacks could and would lead all 3 teams to a playoff appearance. Ignore who the current teams have projected at starter and assume the Notre Dame quarterback is their only option. So, if you take 2 of, this was, I think, written before Steve Angeli hit the transfer portal. So you can, I believe, include Angeli in this. Vince, you want to start it off?
I think that all 3 of them could lead, top teams to a berth in the tournament. Whether they could win the tournament is a completely different conversation. If you're talking about teams that have similar talent to Notre Dame, like a Texas, like a Georgia, like a Ohio State, whatever team you want to pick, I think all 3 of these guys could steer those teams to the playoffs. Yes. So I'm going to be in on that. I think that's an absolute possibility. Yes.
I've been reading this question like 3 times to make sure they understand what's going on here.
Basically, could you put them on these other contenders? Could you put any of Notre Dame's 3 quarterbacks on another contender, and either Carr, Minchie, Angeli, any of them could lead them to the playoffs?
I would feel pretty confident about Angeli, and well, I don't know. It's so hard to say because none of them have real starting experience, but the only thing that would make me feel comfortable is Texas and Ohio State just have elite wide receivers compared to Notre Dame. And so it'd be a lot easier to pitch and catch out there. And whether you like it or not, Ryan Day is obviously a good offensive mind, knows how to get the most out of his offenses. So sure, if we're talking specifically Texas and Ohio State, yeah, but you got to go with teams that have very high-powered offenses, and that's what Texas and Ohio State have. And so I would give them like a 50-50, maybe like 60% chance at making the playoffs.
Yeah, my answer is yes. I would say yes. Like, because if I'm looking at Ohio State and Texas, and you can throw Georgia and Penn State is a little more iffy because of what they've got at wide receiver, but they obviously have a good defense. But those rosters like Ohio State, Texas, Georgia that have a lot of skill position talent, I do think that you could drop any of the three in there, and they would at the very least lead them to the college football playoff. Now, as we said yesterday, which may or may not have, contributed to us trashing Steve Angeli. Steve Angeli is a guy who I've said over and over again can win a lot of games, but he's not going to win championship level games. So I think he could get you to the playoff, but I don't think that he would win college football playoff games, except, maybe in Indiana, like a first round opponent like that, like a Boise State, those kind of things. But as you start getting deeper, like Notre Dame's path last year, Georgia, Penn State, and ultimately Ohio State, I don't think that he would be leading you to wins against those kind of teams.
That's fair.
Oh, we've got more kicker stuff. Eric Schmidt overtakes Noah Burnett as the field goal kicker at some point during the season. We in or we out?
So far out, it's not even funny. He's not. Can he kick field goals? Yes, that is not his forte. That is the thing. If there's three things you can do as a kicker punter, it's kick off, punt, and place kick, right? That is the third for him. So no, that's not going to happen unless Burnett gets hurt like that.
But,
this is a barring injury situation.
Yeah. By the way, chat, if you don't mind, like Jesse is distracted enough. Do we have to have chat updates on this Cubs game? Right now, can we try to focus on what we're supposed to be talking about today? It's hard enough. Jesse, what do you think about this kicker competition?
Man. I just got slammed. Vince, I the thing is Vince has more of a opinion on this than I would. So I can't say I know too much about the kicking depth on this team. I don't even know who the kickers are outside of Mitch Jeter and Rendell, to be completely honest with you.
Mitch Jeter's not on the team anymore, so
and
you got to worry about him.
And that shows you exactly where I'm at, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Noah Burnett is the transfer. Noah Burnett is basically this year's Mitch Jeter, transferred in from North Carolina. And the times we've got to see this spring, he was a little bit shaky, and that's why I think people are a little bit concerned. But remember, Mitch Jeter was a little bit shaky before last season as well, and really wouldn't have been shaky during the season if not for that injury that he incurred, in the middle of October, whenever it was. So I don't think that Schmidt's going to overtake him. I think Burnett will ultimately end up just fine. Like they're going to have plenty of opportunities to get out there this summer and run that field goal operation together. The long snapper, the holder, and the kicker. And I think once they get the opportunity to do that, and that felt like last summer, kind of where Mitch Jeter was able, to kind of find his consistency was once that happened, when they worked together over the course of the summer. And I think that that'll happen again for Noah Burnett this year. There's a reason they went out and got him. He's a veteran kicker, made a lot of kicks. So
I think and he had a really good 23 season. His 24 season was not as good, but he's made 71% of his kicks. I mean, it's a lot of that's a lot of good coming off of his foot. And in the blue gold game, that first kick that he had was obviously terrible, right? He kicked like 6 inches behind the ball. It just misjudged it. But the rest of his kicks were all great. So, that happens. It's first time kicking in Notre Dame Stadium in front of a crowd. Okay, I'll give you the pass on that. I heard somebody else talking about that kick, and it's like he kicked 5 inches behind the tee. I'm like, obviously you don't watch very much football because they don't use tees when they're kicking field goals, but whatever. It's all good. Like, there's no tee on the field, but okay.
Stopped using tees a long time ago, my friend.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Over under 6.5 combined block punts and field goals this season.
Under.
That's a big number.
I think teams are going to be more savvy to the special teams trickery and deception this year.
I got to say under as well. I mean, I appreciate the fact that he put in here there was 6 last year and 7 the year before, or in 22. Excuse me. They're going to have a lot of talent. I just don't know. Like, for example, Bryce Young, was a dude, right? Coming off the edge on those punt blocks and stuff. He's going to have a bigger role on defense. Is he still going to be on the punt block team? You know what I mean? Like, I think they're going to have a lot of athletes on special teams, but what is that going to look like? Who are they going to be? I'm just going to say under because that's a big number to project as a yes. I'd be great if they went over, but
those are, like think of like just the 7 blocks, that was a big number, and 6 blocks even last year is a big number. You block 4 or 5 and you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah,
so I'm going to go under as well. Now, like to your point, I do think that you still keep Bryce Young out there on those block units just because of the length that he has and the fact that he can alter a game like that. I think like having him and Onye in the middle with all that length, if like you have both of them in the middle, I would keep him out there. Whether or not he does, I don't know. You're right. He is going to have a bigger role this season, but I mean, ultimately it's, maybe 4 more plays over the course of a game that you've got him out there. So I would keep him out there personally. But I'm still going under on this number. Joe has a few for us, in or out. There will be more transfer portal announcements for Notre Dame after the last practice on the 23rd than before that date. So we have, is it 4 in the portal so far? Yoakum, Monteforti, Angeli, Urlacher. Nobody other than that, right?
No, I don't think there's anybody else in that at this moment. I think there's going to be more before that practice. And so let's say there's 2 more, that puts it at 6. There's not going to be 6 following that day because the 23rd is Friday and Wednesday, I believe, right?
Next Wednesday, yeah.
Okay, and then the portal closes on Friday. So you got a very short amount of time to get even more guys into the portal. So I will say it's going to be the more before the 23rd, not after.
I'm just going to ignore the date and just go, there's 4 right now. I think there's going to be more than 4 before the portal closes at the end of the day.
It's not the question, but whatever, man.
Jesse's just making up his own rules.
That's exactly right.
I agree with Jesse. There's going to be more before the portal closes. Yes.
So that means that you're out on this. If there's more before the portal closes, if we get 4 more before then, that's 8 total. So it's very unlikely we're going to get 8 more after not the portal closes after the 23rd when the last
and Joe,
it feels like semantics putting dates on stuff. Just are we going to have more or less than what's already in there?
Man, now Salty's firing shots back at you today.
Yeah,
I'm going to go. I'm going to be out. I don't think we get more after the last practice.
There's definitely going to be more coming. I firmly believe
not
that.
More than
yeah.
Like, see, now you're confusing it, Vince.
Sorry.
The number of guys going into the portal will be more before the 23rd than after the 23rd. That's what I'm saying.
I think it's funny as heck. Angeli just packed it up before spring was even over. There's still practices.
Yeah, no, that's true. That tells you the writing was on the wall, man.
Drew Pine packed it up before a bowl game. So
that's true. And he packed it up 2 more times after that.
Yeah. In or out, Lee Corso finally retiring from College Game Day in August is about 5 years too late.
Jesse, I'll let you go first on this one.
5 years is a bit too harsh, but I could definitely give you the last 2 to 3 years. Last year, definitely. The year before that should have been the farewell tour. And then the year before that should have been like, all right, the writing is on the wall. But 5 years, got to give my man a little bit more credit than that.
I will not give him more credit than that. He is absolutely 5 years too late. That should have been done a long time ago. Long time ago. It should have happened. Like the Lord gave him the opportunity to do this like during COVID. And I realize that's not 5 years ago. I get it. It's pretty close though. No, it is probably 5 years ago now. That's when it should have happened, right then and there, when he was locked in his Florida house and, doing shows from his swimming pool. That's when he should have been like, you know what? I think we're good here.
I'm out. Vince, I hope that you're saying that 15, 20, however many years from now, and you're still doing this show and people are like, why is Vince still on this show?
I will still not be 85 years old at that point either.
No,
but
here's my point. Very few people get to go out on their own terms.
This is true.
And 99, look at sports as an example. 99% of players get told their time is done. They don't get to make the choice. The same with coaches, like Lee Corso was a coach first, and he got into TV ultimately because someone dictated that his coaching opportunities were probably done. And I mean, like the TV media game is the same thing. Very people get to dictate their own terms, and so like you can say, yeah, Corso probably should have, just from like a pure quality standpoint, he probably should have hung it up a long time ago. But I do give ESPN props for not pushing him out, so like you can say that they were dumb to do it. Maybe the show wasn't as good or whatever, but this is an industry that treats people, the majority of people, as a line item and not an actual person. And so I do give ESPN a lot of credit for actually treating Lee Corso like a person, keeping him involved in the show, because, look, what happens in a lot of these cases as you get older, like the guy's going to be 90 years old here, a couple weeks, I guess, before his last game day show. And it's like you're literally giving the guy, a purpose, to like keep doing it, doing something he loved, be around people who appreciate him and all that kind of stuff, something he had fun doing. And really, they basically kept him around to put on the headgear at the end of the show. So, obviously his cognitive responses were deteriorating, but I don't mind. I give him all credit for letting Lee Corso go out when he wanted to go out, because again, it's like few and far between. I think that happens in most professions and occupations.
They basically already replaced him with Pat McAfee. Like, can we all agree on that? Like, that's what happened. So he's basically been replaced for the last few years. I almost feel like it's an insult. I'll take a different stance. I think it's an insult that they just kind of roll them out there to put on headgear and then they roll them back out again. I don't know. It just doesn't.
But I mean, that's what he was known for. That's what he was known for. And I think
I get it.
That's like I think if you asked him, he probably knew that he couldn't, do a whole show and, like interact in a whole show the way he used to, because we saw him, kind of keep trying to do that a few years back. So again, I get what you're saying, but I'm more than giving props for.
I understand where you're coming from. I totally get it, and I don't disagree with you. And you are like, this is your industry, and you're passionate about it, and I love that about you and everything else. So that I want to get that out of the way. I think he could have left a couple years ago.
Look,
that's all.
I'll just be honest, as you guys know, like I've been on the short end of budget cuts, losing a job
for
twice,
sure, yeah,
for reasons that had nothing to do with performance. They were
Correct.
all about a corporation's bottom line.
Yes.
That's why it happened both times. And so maybe I'm a little sensitive to it,
which
but
you should be.
That's how I feel about it.
I have no problem. Like, I have no problem with that. Like I said, you're closer to it than myself or Jesse are, right? So like I'm not pushing back on you at all.
No, I know.
It had nothing to do with me, and I hurt for you when that happened. Like, that sucked. Like, that was messed up in a lot of different ways. And I think actually Lee Corso was extremely entertaining when he was at the top of his game.
When he was in his
10
prime,
years ago.
Completely
You know what I mean?
different thing. Yeah.
Like, he was awesome. I love watching Lee Corso. I think he added a ton to the product that is College Game Day. I just feel like he's a shell of himself now, but I also understand where you're coming from too. So
yeah, and I like that they're going to give him one final send off as well after doing this. I'm sure
should be in Miami. Should be in Miami.
I bet it.
Miami.
I wouldn't doubt it is. I wouldn't doubt it. In or out, Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price will have more total yards this season compared to last. They combined to run for a little over 2,000 yards last year. Jess?
I'm going to go over. You're losing Riley Leonard's production. You have a young quarterback. Best way to settle in a young quarterback, no matter who you're playing, is establishing a run game. They have two studs back there, two stallions. And I think that they're going to have they're just going to have a little bit of an uptick in workload. And I think they're going to be even better than last season, more talented than last season.
Yeah, I agree with Jesse. I think Jawan Sider has a different way of using his backs, and I think he's going to use the 1-2 punch a lot more liberally than was done in the past. And I think those two are going to reap the benefits of that. He's going to have to balance it a little bit. I think actually what you're going to see is Jadarian Price get a lot more time than he probably did in the past, but that will then end up saying that the combination of the two will have more yards.
Yeah, I think that they will as well. I think that, one, you're taking Riley Leonard out of the mix, so there's like carries that aren't going to be going to the quarterback now. And then two, the offense is just going to look a lot different. The threat of the passing game is going to put defenses more in jeopardy in terms of how they defend Notre Dame than the way they defended Notre Dame last year. So I think it's just going to lead to even bigger and better things for them this year. I feel like I work in a warehouse. Like I don't even like Vince has got to mute himself at the track. It's like someone's moving. Got one of those dollies and is moving. Like boxes around in my house out in the hallway or something. It's like everywhere today. This is the craziest day.
Hey, it's Good Friday. All right, it's all good. It's all good.
In or out, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina are a higher priority for Notre Dame recruiting than Florida, Illinois, and California.
I will say it appears that way based on the recruits that they're getting, the commits that they're getting right now. I don't think they're like honed in or closed off to anything in particular. I think they're just looking for guys that fit what they want and, that they can coach up and make great. So it definitely appears that way right now, that it's swinging in that direction. And maybe they feel like everybody else is going after, Florida, Illinois, and California. Okay. Can't forget about Texas.
I think it just happens to be where the guys are from.
That's exactly why.
If you're elite, you're elite. Doesn't matter what state you're from, I don't think. I know Jesse's not as into the recruiting, so you don't have to jump in on that one.
And I'm not super into recruiting, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah. In or out, Xavier Watts will be picked higher than Benjamin Morrison in the NFL draft.
I'll be out on this, but I think it's going to be actually really close and definitely a lot closer than what we thought a year ago. I think both of these guys, I think Benjamin Morrison still has the opportunity to go late first round, but I wouldn't be surprised if they both go somewhere in the second round.
I think people are still overlooking Xavier Watts. After all that he did in college, I think they're still overlooking him. And he's going to end up on a good team, I think is what's going to end up happening.
He's going to be a steal of a pick.
He's going to be a steal. It's going to end up that he's going to be a steal. Like when we look back on his career, he's going to be like a Harrison for the Vikings or something like he's going to be a steal in the draft. It's what's going to end up happening. And unfortunately, Morrison is dropping because of the injury, right? And so they're going to be closer together, but I'm out on it because I still think that NFL teams value corners more than they do safeties still at this point, even though I don't know what else Xavier Watts could have done in his college career to make himself more valuable in the draft. I just don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna zag on this. I think that he will be drafted higher than Benjamin Morrison. So I'm in. Mike says Watts will get drafted earlier. BMO is not going in the first round. He's not. Yeah, I mean, he's not going in the first round, but neither of them is going in the first round. And I just think because of the biggest thing that swings this is you're talking about a major injury that Benjamin Morrison has, and he's still got to wait until next Monday before he even does, this workout that he's going to do down there in Arizona for these NFL teams, 3 days before the draft. So, I mean, if it was just pure talent, there's no doubt in my mind that Benjamin Morrison would go higher, but he's got the major hip injury that, that he's still coming back from, that no one's seen him, run or do any agilities or any of that kind of stuff. We saw him, throw the barbell around about a month or so, 3 weeks ago at the pro day. But other than that, that's it so far. And that's to me is the only factor in this is Morrison is coming back from that injury, coupled with it's been less than a year since he had the shoulder injury as well. So you're talking about two fairly significant injuries that Morrison is still coming back from. I don't doubt his talent, but I do know Xavier Watts is really talented as well. And I don't think Morrison is just going to plummet. I don't think he gets past the third round, but he is one that I'm really where is he going to go? Because of the fact that he is so talented, but he's got these injuries. But I do think Watts is going to end up being drafted before him when it's all said and done. Out of the current players on the Notre Dame roster, the biggest draft pick will be defensive end Bryce Young. In or out on that one?
I'm out. CJ Carr.
Agree.
I'll be out. One of the offensive linemen.
I'm not saying Carr is going to be the number one overall pick, but because he's a quarterback and if he performs anywhere close to what we think he's got
more value
chance to be a number one overall pick.
Look at these quarterbacks that are probably going to go in the first round.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this year. I know it's kind of a lower class of quarterbacks, but CJ Carr is better than some of those guys that are going to go in the first round. Period. End of discussion for me.
Totally agree.
And it's just because of the position he plays. I am not discounting who Bryce Young is and what he brings to the table. It's just quarterbacks. He's
going to be really good too. He's got a great chance to go in the first round.
Oh, 100%.
But I think that Carr is just going to ultimately be the guy that goes higher.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Are they going to move? Okay, in or out on basically Tyler Buchner moving back to the quarterback room?
I know where Jesse lands on.
You want to start this one, Jess?
Were some previous comments of mine brought up?
They were in the show yesterday.
We referenced them yesterday, yes.
I'm out. I just Tyler Buchner is so far removed from playing quarterback, and not only he was brought in to play quarterback under a completely different scheme, regime, all of it. The room and the situation is a complete 180 compared to when Buchner was playing football here on scholarship the first time. He's a lacrosse guy now. He's got a lacrosse body. He has not nearly as much muscle on him anymore. He'd be one hit away from another injury. I don't see anything that would warrant that besides just peace of mind at the end of the day, because he will never take a rep at quarterback in a game for Notre Dame again.
No, right now. They don't need him to move over now. But if another quarterback hits the portal, then I move him over. Because
I agree.
Are you going to go to the portal and you're going to bring in some backup from the Ivy League or whatever? Buchner knows everything already. Why waste your time bringing in a guy that you know is never going to play? Bring in Buchner. He's a veteran. He started at Notre Dame before. He's still a quarterback. You bring him in. It's just so much easier and so much less hassle than trying to go to the portal for somebody. It just makes too much sense.
Yep, totally agree. You don't do it now, but if they were to lose another quarterback to the portal, yes, that's when I would bring Tyler Buchner back, because again, it's like the odds that you can actually go out and get someone of any quality, to come in and be in that room. Tyler Buchner knows the offense. He's obviously played the position. He's got some experience. So again, we're not talking about making him, the number one guy. We're just
Not
talking about moving him into the room to give them options.
Scout team quarterback.
The worst case scenario. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you just move him over there because he can help you.
He ran some scout team offense.
Exactly.
Quarterback last year a couple of different times.
Let me ask you a question. Okay. So let's say there's injuries, let's say whatever, and you have to make a choice and who you're going to start the next game, right? And we'll say it's a game against, doesn't matter, right? It's a home game, doesn't matter, right? Who are you going to start, Tyler Buchner or Blake Hebert?
When is this happening?
This year, like 25. The starting quarterback is hurt. And, you know, both Carr and Minchie are unavailable. They can't play. Who are you starting, Hebert or Buckner?
I'm going with the best option, whichever that happens to be. I haven't got to see enough of Blake Hebert in practice, you know, to know
That's
exactly.
Okay.
I can't. Go ahead, Jess.
Going Blake Hebert, Justin Fisher, Tyler Buckner.
You want to talk about a body that's not fit for quarterback? It's Blake. It's Justin Fisher. Have you seen him lately? Come on, man.
He can run that triple option, baby.
He can run that triple option, but
so can Tyler Buckner.
We'd go two backs the whole rest of the game.
He's got a solid arm, but there wasn't a whole lot of precision to it when we got to see him. Like, he was a very good running quarterback, you know, like he was doing his Blake Horvath impersonations more than he was, you know, doing any Roger Staubach impersonations when he was running that offense at Mishawaka.
I am a huge Justin Fisher fan. I am sitting at the stadium that the Fishers built, basically, right? Like I'm at Mishawaka right now.
I know we better be careful. He might just come out of the back of the press box and body slam.
His dad definitely might. But
where's Rezak on this totem pole?
He's a walk-on, and so is Buckner. But I would still start Buckner over both of them because he has experience. He can run an offense. He can do what needs to be done. That's who I would start. So again, that's a hypothetical that will never occur, but that's where I'm at. So yeah, you
brought up the hypothetical. I was just
No, I think you move him over to the room though, because he does bring experience. You know, he's older. He's the oldest one in that room by a long shot, right? I would say this. What does he not bring to the table that like a transfer quarterback from the Ivy League would? I don't think anything. So that's where I'm at.
In or out, women's basketball will advance past the Sweet 16 next year. I'll just go ahead and answer this first, and, you know, maybe needs to be the only answer. I don't know, but I'd like to see them complete their roster before we make any predictions about where they're going, because I saw a video. They literally have, I think it's the 3 scholarship players right now. Obviously, they've added 2 forwards, but they're not here yet. They've got 3 scholarship players and 2 walk-ons at practice the last couple days. So, yeah, let's get a few more bodies on the roster before we make any kind of predictions.
They got a lot of room to grow from the roster standpoint. I'm with you. I'm not ready to make any exclamations about what they're going to do in the postseason at this point, because I don't even know what the starting lineup is going to be. So that's not really fair. You know, that's not fair.
I'm going to answer the question and not give you guys a hard time about not answering the question, but I'll go in on them going to the Sweet 16. I think that
will they go past the Sweet 16?
Yes.
That's the question.
Yes. And I think that this year is a defining year for Neil Ivey. I think she's going to show that and her coaching this year. And I'm still on the page of, you know, the team might not be as talented as years past, but I think she's going to find a way to get them to play as more of a team this upcoming season and really learn from some of the downfalls of this past season. I think a better way to spin this question is, which is more likely, the women's team to advance past the Sweet 16 or the men's team to make the NCAA tournament?
Right, because that is the next question that he asked in around on the men's team making the NCAA tournament. I would say more likely that the women advance past the Sweet 16. I'm leaning toward the men can be a bubble team, but again, they've got some more pieces they've got to add, and you're going to be also, you've got a couple nice veterans led by Marcus Burton, but you also are going to be relying on some young guys.
They just added that glass eater that just came from the transfer portal. My man's averages like a double every game. I can't remember his name though.
In the whack.
Hey.
Hey is hey, buddy. I'm just saying. Like, Hillsdale had a kid transfer from Northern Arizona too this year. So
speaking of which, as we speak, this just happened from I don't know if it's Talia or Talia. I don't know how you say her first name. Goodman from On3 Sports. Duke transfer guard Vanessa De Jesus has committed to Notre Dame.
Good, bad, and different.
That's a good pickup.
Okay. Sean, what's your analysis?
Solid.
Quick, on the
solid.
spot.
She's solid. You know, didn't average a lot of points, but a solid a solid addition to the backcourt.
It's going to be the Hannah show.
Good. You need, again, you need more pieces. They still need a couple shooters to join the team. That's what they really need at this point. And they need a little bit more in the front court, but they need a couple shooters as well. But De Jesus is a good, solid addition right now, coming from a good Duke team.
Does that make 3 or 4 that they've brought in so far?
The third.
Okay. Still room to grow. Still working.
Yeah, Scott L. Esquire and DJ say, a couple of the bigger women's basketball fans in here. DJ says, little surprising. Scott says, hope we got a better starter than that, though. And TD4ND says, why is she solid? Because she's solid. She wasn't what I would call one of their frontline players at Duke, but she was good. She was depth at Duke. I think she'll have a little bit more of an opportunity here at Notre Dame. She had a teammate, Oluchi Akanenwa. I know, say that fast, who just committed to Maryland today. And between the two, Akanenwa would have been, a big step up. More, not that she would have been Sonia Citron, but you could have seen her kind of doing some Citron type things. Scored a little bit more, quite a bit more points, and pretty solid 3-point shooter and a really good defender as well. But that one's going to Maryland. Anyone who's coming out of the Duke program is going to be a good defender. So I think that that's a good start. Okay, as we all sit and
I don't really have anything else to add to the women's basketball thing yet. I just don't.
We in or we out? Now that Steve Angeli is leaving, CJ Carr will be a captain.
He's a sophomore. He's a redshirt freshman. He's not going to be a captain. Nope.
No, I don't think he's quite ready to be a captain yet. He might not have the C on his jersey, but he will still be a leader, obviously playing the quarterback position.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of make an exception when it's a junior who they know is probably going to leave for the NFL draft by making them a captain. You know what I mean? I don't see them making an exception for a sophomore / redshirt freshman, however he's going to be, tagged, right? He'll be here next year. And if he's the starting quarterback this year and next year, then he's got a great shot of being a captain.
And the players vote for it, so.
Which is true. But no, that's a good point. I just don't know that I want to put that kind of pressure on him right at the front. Everybody's talking about the pressure being the starting quarterback and all of that. And I don't think it's going to be a situation where they're going to put even more pressure on, unneeded pressure on him by making him a captain. I just don't think that's necessary.
Yeah. Let's pick up the pace a little bit. In or out, with the way the roster construction is, the way the staff is recruiting, Notre Dame wins 2 championships in 3 years and starts an Alabama-like run. In or out on that?
Out. You're too much. Just give me a national championship before we start talking about multiple.
Yeah. I got to be out as well.
Oh, yeah. Out. That's too much too soon. I'm not ready to go there yet. You want to talk about rose-colored glasses? I'm not ready to put those on yet.
Okay. Salty wrote a book for us. Steve Angeli's transfer is best for the quarterback room. CJ Carr is likely to be QB1 and will get more time working with the first-team receivers. Kenny Minchie's QB2 role gives him multi-game snaps and minimizes the risk that he also transfers. Blake Hebert gets QB3 development early, and Tyler Buchner returns to the quarterback room as the emergency quarterback. In or out on all that? It is a lot. I generally agree with what you're saying, but again, I don't think moving Tyler Buchner back to the quarterback room is necessary unless another quarterback leaves. But I agree with pretty much everything else that you've said, including this gives Blake Hebert the opportunity to get more development, which is why you would not want to move Tyler Buchner back to the quarterback room unless somebody else leaves, because you basically got Teddy Rizak to be your scout team quarterback and Blake Hebert as your number 3 quarterback.
Go ahead.
I'm out on everything except the end in Tyler Buchner, but we already knew that.
You're out on everything except Tyler Buchner?
No. Sorry, I'm in on everything out on the Tyler Buchner part.
Gotcha.
I am, I'm in on everything except the Buchner thing because I don't think they'll move him over if there are still two of the battling quarterbacks. So yeah, I'm in on everything except the Buchner part, but it wouldn't surprise me, I guess, either.
In or out, Notre Dame has enough talent to make the championship game without the starting quarterback playing like Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I'm in on that because, there's only been one Joe Burrow season, right? I mean, like there was 12 quarterbacks in the playoff this past year, one of which won the national championship that didn't have stats that were even close to what Joe Burrow had. So you don't need Joe Burrow to win a national championship. So I am very out on this one.
I think Notre Dame has enough talent. They made it to a national championship with Riley Leonard at quarterback, and he wasn't the most overly talented, quarterback, passer of the ball. And I just don't think they need someone to air it out like Joe Burrow did in that season. They just need someone that has the ability to move the ball downfield in the air to complement the running game. I mean, it's very well known that Marcus Freeman is always going to be a protect the ball, run first team. And so, excuse me, he's going to be a run first, protect the ball team. And so, again, the passing game is just going to be, in my opinion, enough to give to be multidimensional. I don't think they need a Joe Burrow type season and going out there slinging the ball. Just be efficient and hit your spots when you need to.
Yeah, I'm in on this. Notre Dame's got enough talent to do it. Riley Leonard didn't have a Joe Burrow season last year, and they made it to the national championship game. So, there's more. There's going to continue to be more talent over the next several years, and they've got enough right now to get back once again. They don't need a Joe Burrow type season to do that. In or out, the media will get tired of talking about the Notre Dame quarterback situation by Memorial Day.
Wow.
I've been tired.
Yeah, exactly. I was in on this in January. So
yeah, I was in on this before spring practice even started.
Yep. So that's big time in for both of us.
Indy,
that one got me.
Indy Sailor on the last one says out because unproven tight ends, receivers except the receiver from Virginia. But I mean, how is that any different from last year? And again, they made it to the championship game last year. Part of that was because they had a really good running quarterback, but they also had a really good defense. They're still going to have a really good defense. They've got Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. I think we all think that Jaden, now, again, it has to happen, but based on what we saw from Jaden Greathouse, late in the college football playoff push, he emerged. Jordan Faison, we expect that he can be really good. Fields, it's not like Mitchell Evans was a Mackey Award finalist tight end last year, and that's what you're losing from last year's team. So the questions really are, to me, they're a lesser degree of last year. So I don't see these things as issues with unproven tight ends and receivers because again, not that much different from last year's team.
It's college football. You're going to have unproven guys every single year because guys leave and guys transfer. So that doesn't bother me in any way.
In or out, Notre Dame is the best program from the last 10 years not to win a title during that time.
Well, who else is on the list? Texas, Oregon.
Well, but really, Texas has only been the last couple of years.
Okay. So who else is on the list? That's what I'm asking.
Penn State. I think you have to include them in there. Oregon. I think you said that. Who else?
I think the list is pretty small if you're going by a whole 10 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to remember, though, if you're going 10 years, that also includes 2016 for Notre Dame, too. So
that's true.
I mean,
that's true.
Just saying. But, yeah, I mean, I could be in on that. I definitely make an argument that's the case. So I'd be fine with that.
Jess?
Thinking. I think you could comfortably be pretty in on that. The amount of 10-win seasons that they stacked up, they finally broke through that postseason success barrier this past season. I think that they could be on a very short list at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think the list is them and Penn State, really. Like Vince brought up Texas, but again, Texas is too recent, I think, to include them on, if we're going back over the last
10 years is a long time, man.
Yeah. And like if you look at Notre Dame's run of all these double-digit win seasons, I think they've averaged over that, like, again, take out 2016, in basically 2017 through last year, they've averaged around 11 wins. It's probably up even a little bit more because, the run to the championship game pushed your win total up last year. So they've averaged almost 12 wins per season, since 2017. So I think so. I think them and Penn State, and then you can put Oregon in after that. But again, Oregon is really, remember there was like some downtime after Chip Kelly left Oregon, and and then Mario Cristobal came back. I think it had the one good year, and then it's been Dan Lanning for the last 3 years. So I would go Notre Dame, Penn State, and then probably Oregon after that. That would be it for me. Yeah, Edward says, what about Oklahoma? I think that's fair, but it's kind of the reverse. It's like you have to go back to when Lincoln Riley was still there, because obviously these last 3 years post Lincoln Riley, you couldn't include him in there. But 7 out of 10 years, yeah, Oklahoma would probably be in there as well. But again, like they've got to prove that they can kind of get back up and into legit contender type range. Guys, are you ready for rapid fire?
I'm always ready. There it is. See? There's the gun. Let's do it.
Starter's gun?
Yeah, that's the 100-meter dash.
Okay. So from Kenny Minchie's perspective, what are the pros and what are the cons for him to stay at Notre Dame if CJ Carr ends up being the starting quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I think the pros are you get more time to develop into a starting quarterback. He might not be completely ready right now, even if he gets the backup job here at Notre Dame. I don't think he might not be ready to go on and be a starter elsewhere. And so what you get is the opportunity to learn, develop your skills as a quarterback, and then, in my opinion, learn from one of the better or top tier offensive coordinators in the country, right? You still get to learn from a great mentor, and you still get to be a part of overall what's going to be a great team. And so even if you're not a starter in those situations, there's still a great opportunity to learn and then take what you've learned in your skills elsewhere and really have, a good solid year. I would say the only con is you waste a year of eligibility.
The pro is, number one, and this is going to sound so old man of me, the number one pro is if he sticks around another year, he gets his degree. So that would be number one. From an athletic standpoint,
I knew somebody would have to say the degree.
I got to say it. I'll throw it in there. Look, a Notre Dame degree is still very, very valid, right?
It was on my list. It was on my list.
There you go.
Farther down the list, but it's on my list.
That's fair. You're still one snap away from being the starter at Notre Dame, and I think that's an important piece to this whole puzzle. What are your guarantees if you pack up and leave? Are you guaranteed to be the starter wherever you go? Are you going to go to a team that has a chance at a national championship and be the starter? I don't know the answer to that because I don't know who's looking, right? There could be NIL implications where he could make more money going someplace else. I get that. But staying at Notre Dame, I think, can help him from a maturation process, from a development process, all of those different things. And I think they would be smart to work him into the game plan as well. And then if he is planning on going someplace else at some point in time, that's fine. But I just feel like he'd be better served sticking around. That's where I'm at.
So the pro for me, the biggest pro is like, even if he ends up playing in 5 games this year, which would put him, over the red shirt limit, he's still got multiple years of eligibility remaining. And it's unlikely that he's going to transfer someplace else and start right away. Like if he were to leave right now, I highly doubt, and we kind of talked about this last year, with Riley Leonard and, like why guys stay, why guys go, like Steve Angeli has film. He's got actual game film that benefits him as he puts himself out there in the transfer portal. Now, Kenny Minchie basically has some mop-up snaps. He doesn't have the same thing. He's got a mop, a handful of that and some snaps from the blue gold game last week that he's put on film. So like he's still got eligibility left. He would, get to sit here, be in this offense, continue to develop. And there's just really, there's just nothing. I don't see it being a big benefit for him to jump right now because, like, while he could go someplace and compete for a job, he's still competing for a job someplace else, just like what he's doing here right now. To me, the biggest con, because you're, more pros, you're going to continue to get some NIL money, like you're going to continue to get to be, part of a winning program that's going to bring you a lot of, profile. And I think that he will get some opportunities to get on the field this year, even if he's, already, I was distracted by this. I'm sorry. D-Hawk says, Kenny already had a red shirt. I'm not saying he gets to keep the red shirt. I'm saying he'll have multiple years of eligibility down the road. Like either way, even, whether he's under the limit or over the limit, whether he's under or over, like this season doesn't, it doesn't matter from an eligibility. I probably said that wrong. Like it doesn't matter either way from an eligibility standpoint. It's kind of a wash either direction. That's what I'm saying.
Because he's going to be a junior, right? So he's already had his red shirt. This is year 2 for him. And then he'll have 2 more years after this.
So he's still got 2 years after this year, no matter what, is what I'm saying. Yes. Yes. As DK says, he has 3 years left right now. Again, I'm sorry for the confusion, but my point is either way, he's going to have multiple, as I said before, multiple years of eligibility. I didn't say it any other way. I specifically said he's going to have multiple years of eligibility remaining after this year, because I don't think that realistically he's going to transfer at the end of spring and have a chance to go someplace unless it's a lower level program. I don't think that he's going to have, an opportunity to go someplace and start right away someplace else. That's my point. And the only real con is he would not be the starter.
Right. I just don't know what kind of, assertions he's going to have that he's going to be the starter at a team that has a chance to go to national championship, has a chance to go to the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like that would have to be, if he's going to leave, then he needs to leave for a better situation, in my opinion, right? Not to be a backup someplace, because he could be the backup on a top 5 team right now if he ends up being in that spot, right? If he's the number 2 guy, he's the backup on a top 5 team, right? And so do you have an opportunity to be a starter on a top 10 team? Do you have an opportunity to be a backup on a top 10 team? Like what does that look like? I just don't know. There's a lot of variables in there, and I think the grass isn't always greener. And that's the case right now.
So what about CJ Carr? What are his pros and cons, Vince?
I think it's a similar conversation, but the only difference is he's got another year of eligibility, right? So if he's behind Kenny Minchie, if he's the number 2 guy, I think, you could realistically look for a different opportunity, because Kenny Minchie's got 3 years of eligibility, right? There's no guarantees that if CJ waits him out, that he's going to have an opportunity to be a starter at Notre Dame. And so it would be even more of a reason to jump in the portal, because, okay, you can go be a backup someplace for a guy that has 1 year of eligibility left and then be the starter. So that's the way I would look at it if I was CJ Carr. Since he is a redshirt freshman, he's got all 4 years of eligibility left. I would try to go to a place where the path is a little bit easier to start.
Yeah, I think it would be a long list of cons for CJ Carr. He has a lot of eligibility remaining left. It's not like he's too deep into this program or this system. So I think starting new somewhere or fresh wouldn't be as nearly as hard. He doesn't have the degree thing, over his head of nearing the completion of that. So if I'm CJ Carr and I don't get named the starter, I would immediately put my name in the transfer portal, just because he has every aspiration and skill set to be a starter somewhere. And he was, both these guys were highly recruited. CJ Carr was more so highly recruited coming out of high school. So I think being younger too definitely adds to the list of cons. So to me, there's really no pros if Kenny Minchey got named the starter for CJ Carr.
To stay.
No
pros. Yeah, I agree. Like the Kelly Bryant thing a few years back at Clemson, and like Jaden Mickey this past year, like leaving before he burned his red shirt, making sure that he, preserved the season of eligibility. It's almost like you stay, you stay with the team until once you're butting up against the limit, the 4 games, then it becomes a business decision, right? If you're not the starting quarterback, that's kind of how it feels like. And maybe it's like that for Minchey as well, for either of these guys. But yeah, because he's younger, like you don't have all these other factors, to think about. So I really see, no true pros, for him staying. I mean, everything is just, all the cons are you're not the starter and you're burning up a year of eligibility. And I mean, obviously everyone kind of came in thinking that CJ Carr is like going to be a 3-year and then declare for the draft by after his junior year type guy. So, yeah.
Yeah. I hate to say it, because of course I want him to potentially be the quarterback at Notre Dame. So even having this discussion is a little depressing, but yeah, I would leave if I was him.
Scale of 1 to 10, what chances do you give Steve Angeli to land at a Power 4 school?
Man, we just freaking stir this bad boy up. I give this thing a 3 out of 10. I think that he's got a worse than 50-50 shot. I think that I said it yesterday on social media. Anyone who thinks he's going to Tennessee, you are drinking some very delusional Kool-Aid. I think Power 4 is even a stretch. And if he does go to a Power 4, he's just going to be a backup again. If he wants to truly be a starter, I think he is a MAC quarterback.
You don't think he could start at Illinois, Northwestern? Wow. You are selling him awfully short. I absolutely do. He could it's high for me. I think he absolutely goes to a Power 4 team. I think it's going to be a lower level, like Big Ten, type team. And I think that's fine. And he will be a starter and he will be Steve Angeli. So I absolutely think he'll go Power 4 100%.
I mean, I think, like you look at there are 3 teams on Notre Dame's schedule: Syracuse, Boston College, 4 teams actually. Pitt, they started a freshman last year, Eli Holstein, and he was injured. He's kind of the presumed guy, but that's obviously back in Angeli's home area. Boston College, Stanford. I think any of those schools Angeli could go in and have an opportunity. Now again, as John Christophic says, Rutgers. That's one that's come up quite a bit. TD4ND says Purdue, and I thought about Purdue as well. They brought in a couple guys, and it seems like they're fairly set in who they think the starting quarterback is going to be. And I mean, that's got to be the biggest thing that Angeli eyes in this whole thing is, where do I have a chance to go and start right away?
Depth chart.
That's what he's got to be looking at, is what the depth chart looks at. The question was, what chances do we give Angeli to land at a Power 4 school? I give this a 9 because I absolutely, as I said yesterday, as a compliment to him, he thinks he should be the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. Like, correct. That's the mental mindset that you want everyone to have. And he's going to think that he's going to go someplace and start for another Power 4 team. So, like, it's a 9 for me. I think that he's going to end up playing for another Power 4 school. I don't think it's going to, it's going to be kind of the level that I just touched on there, those kind of schools, whether it's Stanford, Boston College, Syracuse, Pittsburgh, like that level, like that's, I think Angeli's got a really great chance of that.
Friendly wagers, anyone?
Oh, 100%. What do you want to wager? Because the question is on a Power 4 roster, correct?
Yes, that's all
But
it is on
I
a
don't-
Power 4 roster.
I don't think he's going to a Power 4 team unless he knows he is definitely the starter. Why would you just go to a place to sit somewhere again?
But he will be a starter because he's better than a lot of the quarterbacks that are in the Power 4 right now.
I respectively disagree.
Okay.
You are
I
a
think
hater.
we both think you're wrong. But
That's
He's
why
a
I
good
said friendly wager.
what do we want to wager? What do we want to wager?
Look, he's better than Ian Book.
Ooh.
Yeah, I said it.
it.
Yeah,
know
nobody can
about
say
that.
I'm a Steve Angeli hater. I
So
think he's
Steve
better than Ian
Angeli
Book.
would have been the all-time winningest quarterback at Notre Dame if he had been here 5 years earlier.
Yeah, because the quarterback room sucked.
See, Sly Fox says if Pine can, Steve for sure. But the thing is, Pine actually had a full season on tape. That's still a part of this.
matter.
And Jelly had mop-up duty in a crappy bowl game and a little bit of a
But it's really
games.
it's like a Matt Flynn situation. I don't know if you remember Matt Flynn, like Seattle Seahawks quarterback, like he comes in, and Scott Mitchell, the guy with the Miami Dolphins. It's like a guy, Brock Osweiler for the Denver Broncos a few years back. Guy comes in, plays for the injured quarterback, puts a little bit on film, and parlays it into a big free agent contract. It's basically the same thing for Steve Angeli. Like, he's got that on film, and it's going to land him someplace. Someone is going to see
100%.
that, and they're going to covet that, and they're going to think that he can be the guy.
Here's what they're going to look at. He's got over 700 yards passing. He's got like 10 touchdowns, 1 interception, and he came in the Orange Bowl and led him down to a scoring drive. That's all. And he was amazing in the Sun Bowl. It's all people are going to look at. That's his film. And everybody at Notre Dame is going to be like, yeah, he's a great kid. He's a leader. He's great on and off the field. All of those things. He's going to be in a Power 5 roster, no doubt in my mind.
If he does, I will buy Vince and his entire family dinner.
Oh, you know I have 5 kids, right?
Yeah,
That's why
no
I said
kidding.
the entire family.
Wow. Where are we going for dinner?
Culver's is being
I'll be at the
DoorDashed
Dario.
to Vince's house.
I'll take Culver's. That's fine. Let's go.
And Flip, anything that you and Mom want on DoorDash, I'll do that with you guys.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
I see some pizza coming up in my future. So he's going to be on a Power 4 team.
We'll see.
Because, whether or not it's realistic that, he can be the starting quarterback, in his mind, he thinks he is. And that's why he's going to end up on a Power 4 team. He's not going to settle transferring away from Notre Dame. He's going to have plenty of Power 4 teams talking to him. And in his mind, he thinks he's going to go be the guy. This doesn't mean he has to be the starter. It just has to mean that's where he's transferring to a Power 4 team.
And then in return, each of you owe me a wing dinner.
Okay.
Fair. Totally fair.
Doesn't matter what you name because we're not going to have to pay it.
Yeah, that's why I said I'm pretty much
buying a lot of food for us.
I would have agreed to just about anything at this point. Hey, I did say yesterday, if he wanted to transfer to Hillsdale, I would personally drive him up to Hillsdale, Michigan, and lay out the party in the red carpet. Like no doubt about that. So, yeah. So, Steve, if you're listening, let's go. Let's roll.
All right, here we go. So the NCAA has approved a new rule that's going to take effect this season. It's designed to curtail players faking injuries. This is one that's been, kind of kicked around. They kicked the can for a while on what the rule was going to be. So under this new rule, if medical personnel are forced to enter the field of play to evaluate an injured player after the ball is spotted by the officiating crew, that player's team will be charged a timeout. If that team doesn't have any remaining timeouts, it'll be a 5-yard delay of game penalty. Buy or sell this new rule.
You want this one, Jesse? Because I feel like this is a layup.
This is a huge buy for me. They needed to find ways to prevent these. I mean, you saw it in like every Ole Miss game last season. Lane Kiffin was like the master of kind of finding the loophole in this situation. Guys go down and it's, oh, I'm cramping, and then they take the unofficial timeout, and then the guy comes off, and then immediately he's back in. It's obvious he wasn't hurt, right? And so my whole thing with this is if you go down hurt, you should be able to sit one play. And now if you're caught, basically faking an injury, I do think that you should be punished. And I think a timeout or a penalty is perfectly warranted.
But it's not if you're caught. It's if you get knocked silly during a game.
You heard any of this right? Yeah,
and you're out, and you are actually injured, and they bring somebody out to check on you. You lose a timeout and
automatically
yards.
If someone has to come out and check on you, you're going to lose a timeout.
I hate this. This is awful. I agree. They needed to do something. This isn't it. This is not it, because if somebody's legitimately injured, you are penalizing your team. So you're going to have guys trying to drag a leg off the field.
You're going to be losing timeouts for legitimately everyone who has.
I don't think it's going to be this dramatic. They're not going to penalize guys.
But that's the rule.
It literally says, Jesse,
that's the rule.
If medical personnel have to come onto the field of play to evaluate you, you're going to lose a timeout. That's why this is a huge sell.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think we're just taking this a bit too literally. I think they're trying to find ways for the fake injuries, and obviously, if someone is seriously hurt, no, if someone's seriously hurt, I don't think that this isn't what they're aimed to.
But I don't think they get the chance to make that decision. Referees don't get to make that choice.
Right.
If they come out, you lose.
We don't get to wait 5 minutes and go, wow, he was legitimately hurt, so now we can give him that timeout back. That's based on this. That's not what they're going to do. That's why I don't get why you would institute a rule like this. It just seems like they've taken it too far. Going back to the last question about Angeli, Brian says, how's that line of thinking? How did it work out for Pine and Buckner? Well,
doesn't matter how it worked out.
Doesn't matter how it worked out.
I'm going to be eating free Culvers while he sits the bench. That's what's going to happen.
Again, it doesn't matter what any of us think. It's what Steve Angeli thinks, and it's also what the coaches, who are, potentially, offering him a scholarship. And I think he's going to get plenty of offers, and I think Angeli's going to take one of them.
So looking at this whole injury thing, right? Is there a loophole here? It's if a head coach comes out, do you still lose your timeout, or does it have to be an actual trainer that comes out? You know what I mean? Is that a loophole?
That's a good question. Because if your players help you off the team, then medical staff or off the field, then medical staff hasn't come out on the field.
Man,
to me, what this feels like is when they spot the ball, play is getting ready to run, and then someone just drops to the ground because they don't want the play to run. That's how I interpreted this.
Well, that's what you're trying to curtail, but there are going to be
but the if spotted thing is what leads me to that.
So what you're saying is if a guy goes down because of the play, they're already down before the ball is snapped.
Yes.
So our placed or spotted. So you think that refs are going to slow play spotting the ball to maybe if a guy's actually injured?
Yes, and I think this is to when the ball is spotted, referee gets away from the center, he blows the play live, and now someone just all of a sudden falls down out of nowhere. That's what I think this more or less is.
I could see that, but I could also see coaches being pissed off in a 2-minute drill that the refs aren't spotting the ball quick enough because there might be an injury. You know what I mean?
And so I do believe the rule is very hairy. There's a fine line, a slippery slope on this.
Oh, it's definitely slippery. I'm in on that.
Me too.
That part for sure. All right, a couple more questions before we wrap up. Lee Corso is going to retire after 38 years of doing College Game Day on ESPN. We talked about it a little bit in, we out. He's going to make his final picks, don the headgear one more time on game days, first show of the season on August 30th. So my question to you guys, when Corso was in his prime, where do you rank him among the best studio analysts of all time in any sport? And I'm not talking about the Tony Romo's, Chris Collinsworth. I'm not talking about
studio guys,
game analysts. I'm talking about the studio show guys, the pregame show, the postgame, whatever kind of guys.
I'm the hater of the bunch. I'll let you go first, Jess.
See, the issue is I don't have a good recall on a lot of these names. And so when I think of college football,
it's not just college football, it's any sport. So
right. Do we consider Mike Tirico during the Olympics as a in-studio analyst.
Well,
You know
he's
what
a
I mean?
host. He's not an analyst. We're mostly talking like former coaches, former players. I mean, the easy one is Charles Barkley. That should be hitting you in the face because you're like the NBA guy. And literally, I think Charles Barkley is the standard bearer. I think that he is the best studio analyst of all time.
Yeah. I mean, I would say Charles Barkley, Lee Corso.
This is actually tougher than I thought because I came up with the question and then started trying to think of some of the other ones. Like some of the ones I came up with, like Jimmy the Greek. This is obviously way before.
That's way before my time too.
Vince's time. Like Jimmy the Greek was, like one of the originals. Like the NFL on CBS or whatever that original show was called. Like Jimmy the Greek brought just a different perspective. Part of being like a guy who stands out in this role is both, having the opinion, but also having the entertainment value. And I think that, again, like that's where Charles Barkley comes in. That's where a guy like Jimmy the Greek comes in. I think that not as much Terry Bradshaw today, but probably earlier Terry Bradshaw when he was in the studio, he was really good. Jimmy Johnson was really, good. Howie Long, really good, like those kind of guys. But I would put Corso right in that mix. I think that he is probably at the very least top 3, top 4. And again, I'm talking in his prime, Lee Corso, both the ability, to have an opinion because he was a lot harder edged, back, like probably 20, 30 years ago, NFL today. Thank you, Brian NY, 20, 30 years ago than what he is right now. And then obviously you add the entertainment value, with the headgear and the whole thing.
He was very entertaining. Like he was must-see TV in the 90s and early 2000s. And the Not So Fast, My Friend, and like all that kind of stuff. So he's top 3 for me as a studio analyst because the list just isn't that long, as you stated. And he's a guy that I could come up with right off the top of my head without any problem whatsoever. He's better than all the other guys that are on that desk when he was in his prime. If we're talking about College Game Day, he's better than the guys that were on College Game Day for basketball. He's better than all of those guys too. So I think he's top 3 all time. So regardless of my thoughts about when he should have hung it up, I think that he was absolutely excellent. And he set the market for studio analysts and, the shtick of the headgear and like all that. Like that was cutting edge at the time. You know what I mean? And we make fun of it to a degree, but at the same time, that was cutting edge. And everybody wanted to see who did Corso, what headgear did he put on? Like all that, like that was legitimate must-see TV back before the internet. You know what I mean? So like, I'm all in on this. I think he is top 3, and I can't even think of a 1 and a 2. I just want to say that to give myself some breathing room.
Salty is saying Lou Holtz, and look, we all love Lou Holtz, but to me, it was,
the Mark May Lou Holtz thing was too much.
It was just too much shtick, is what it was. There wasn't enough actual analysis. I don't think there was just too much shtick. Ultimately, it was hard for a lot of people to take him seriously.
After doing a little bit of recon, I would like to give an honorable mention to my man Harold Reynolds at the MLB Network. I think
it's a good one.
I think he does a great job in the studio, especially between games. And MLB Network cuts between a lot of games when games are going on. And I think he's terrific at analyzing the games, short to the point, and is good for the overall fan experience. And has been doing it for a long time as well.
Yeah, no, he was good. I haven't seen him in a long
Kruk
time.
Used to be really good as well, back when Kruk was doing it for ESPN before they let him go. But, again, like another victim of the gradual downsizing of the baseball presence on ESPN. Like he's a Phillies game analyst now, but Kruk was really good back then when he was with Harold Reynolds for a while on Baseball Tonight and all that kind of stuff. Reese Davis, by the way, said he's going to tackle anyone besides Corso who tries to put on the headgear. On the show.
So that's bold. Yeah. I think they should retire the headgear thing. That's the respect they should show for Lee Corso. Like it just needs to be retired after he does it. Like you're done. It's over. Yeah. It was a good run. It's his thing.
Don't need to do it anymore. That's right. All right, final question tonight. The NFL is making Christmas Day games a permanent thing going forward. The Kansas City Chiefs wanted to be the permanent Christmas Day team, but the NFL shot that down, so there won't be fixed teams like the Cowboys and the Lions on Thanksgiving. My question, would you guys wanted to have had the Chiefs as a permanent fixture on Christmas Day games?
I like the tradition of the Thanksgiving games and knowing that, whether you hate them or not, the Cowboys, Lions are always going to play on Thanksgiving. And I don't mind it on Christmas. I don't mind football on the holidays. It gives you something to do after, being around family all the time and eating and opening presents. It's just everyone can just sit down, relax, and watch a football game. And if you're going to pick a team to do it, why not the Chiefs? I mean, they've been the most dominant team in the NFL the last decade. And maybe that makes you hate them, but at least, you're going to be entertained with Patrick Mahomes and watch some good football on Christmas.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's only going to be Patrick Mahomes for so long, and then at some point Patrick Mahomes retires, and then you've got 8 decades of the Detroit Lions, playing on Thanksgiving Day, so yeah.
Okay, there's a couple points to this, right? So I'm absolutely out on the Kansas City Chiefs being the permanent team on Christmas Day. Could not be more out. They're the flavor of the day. Like I don't want them in there. I'm not a fan of the Chiefs, obviously, but I don't want them to be the permanent holder of that spot. I love football on Christmas Day. I think that's a great idea. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I like watching football on the holidays. As Jesse said, I'm not going to throw my parents under the bus like he just did. But I do very much like football on Christmas Day. I think, and it's different than the Lions and the the Lions and the Cowboys had to be talked into doing it back when it first started, and they're being rewarded now for taking that chance and always having that game. The Chiefs just want to capitalize on it. There's a difference there.
You want to capitalize on their popularity right now.
Right.
Always have that. Yeah.
I'm out on that. I'm out on them trying to capitalize from it because there's only positives right now. When the Lions and the Cowboys did it, there was a lot of potential negatives there.
Well, and I'm sure, I think the Chiefs actually, if I remember right, they wanted to be one of those teams as well.
Sure.
Either the Cowboys or the Lions basically playing the Thanksgiving games, and they didn't get to. So, they're trying to kind of swipe some of that back right now. And I agree. I don't think you need a permanent team. I think that you do. You just keep rotating it every year, and you've got 6 different teams on Christmas Day every year. I like the fact, that they're not going to fix one team. All right. Well, that is going to do it for today from all locations.
What a roller coaster of emotions on this show. So what a roller coaster of emotions on this show.
For you.
It was an odd day. It was a very odd day.
Hey, this is perfect timing. They're literally about to shoot the gun for my kid's race. So this is perfect.
All right. Excellent. Hit the like button. Have a great weekend. Have a great Easter weekend. By the way, I guess I had one more question to ask you guys, since it is Easter weekend.
That's right.
Your Easter meal. Ours is steak. We have gone to steak in recent years. We've ditched the traditional ham and all that stuff. We're big steak on the grill. What's your go-to Easter meal?
Omelet Station. We go out to eat, so Omelet Station all day long.
I like it.
I haven't had a traditional Easter dinner in what feels like a while, and neither of me or my fiance are of religious backgrounds. So I would just say I like a good ham and deviled eggs on Easter or grilling out.
We do the deviled eggs, as you know, with the steak as well. That's one of the side items that we have. And usually like some of the scalloped potatoes or something like that. All right, everybody have a great Easter weekend. We will talk to you next week. IB Nation Sports Talk.